So, being so fully here now, so as to meet the eternal nature of this moment. To meet the eternal nature of this moment now is to meet the happiness that is causeless. To recognize the eternal nature of this moment and to feel the happiness, the contentment that is here, that is causeless, is not here because there is something that is bringing a mood of happiness or joy that can be taken away. We get glimpses of happiness and joy in things of the world. And then we get fooled into believing that happiness is caused by things, by experiences. And then we attempt to recreate more of those kind of experiences or gather more things that will bring that feeling of happiness. But happiness is not caused by things. And these glimpses, if they are not explored to find out where does it all arise from? Because where it all arises from, where everything arises from, is true happiness. But the thing itself is not happiness. Happiness is the neutral, spacious, eternal nature of this moment from where everything arises. And the true nature of this moment, without interpretation or evaluation, is happiness. And you are this moment. You are the happiness. You are the eternal nature, the timeless being that just is. And so this cannot be understood by the mind, because the mind is a fully paid up member of the happiness is caused by things club, right? The mind is completely fooled and believing that things make it happy, right? All of those smiles say yes, that recognition that the mind is absolutely convinced and committed that things bring happiness, that good experiences bring happiness. But that rush of happiness is the true nature. It's a glimpse. So we are given glimpses of true nature in order to long for that true nature. It's not wrong to long for happiness. It's not wrong to want happiness. What is wrong in the equation, the way that it plays, is that looking for happiness in the world of things is not where happiness is. We would not say it's wrong, but it's what creates the problem. It's what creates the disappointment. It's what creates the misunderstanding and then that frustration that happiness cannot be found. Well, happiness in a temporary way can be found. It's the glimpse, but it is not sustaining when it is dependent upon something. So just as we can smile about the mind's investment and conviction that happiness is in things, we can also recognize that after some kind of happy experience, some kind of pleasing experience, there too will come a disappointment, because things that come and go and move and change, as much as they can bring joyful experiences, they can also bring disappointment, because the moving, changing, the temporary, transient nature of things means that nothing is constant. And so where happiness can be found in things, it can also bring disappointment, pain, suffering, upset, frustration, anxiety, and all of those juicy good things that the me doesn't really like. So, what to do? The only way the mind knows how to deal with this is to give everything to trying to overcome a natural cycle by attempting to bring as many happy, pleasurable experiences as possible, seeking after things, seeking after what brings, what feels good. And even when we have a depth of knowing, this can still be played out. And that's the thing that is so mysterious. Can know this as truth, can recognize and can feel this is true. And yet, why does that cycle keep playing? Why do I keep getting fooled? Why do I keep believing that this time, this thing, this is different? It's going to be different. this. But wherever there is a thing involved that's bringing experience, what will follow, where the mind and the me is involved, is some kind of disappointment, because the mind is constantly evaluating according to what it likes and dislikes, according to preferences, according to, do I like this? Do I feel safe here? Is this pleasing me? But the nature of the mind is that it too is changeable. So what brings you pleasure and joy one day can be really aggravating the next day, right? So all things, including the mind, are contributing to this cycle of pleasurable, enjoyable, followed by disappointing. You can love something so much, and at some point you get tired of it. You just don't love it quite the way you used to, whether it's a person, a place, a food, or something, your favorite sweater, right? Things go through seasons where the mind is involved. There's change, there's constant change. So, true happiness that we long for, it's not wrong to long for it, because it's the true nature. It's natural to long for happiness, contentment. But that which is longed for cannot be found in things, cannot be found in experience that is temporary and transient. Just to recognize the temporary, transient nature of the play of the world and the impossibility of finding the eternal in the transient is a big step. It's a big step to recognize the world is temporary, ever-changing, transient. What is longed for is the eternal, unmoving, timeless being that is true happiness, contentment, the unmoving silence of being. You cannot find that in the moving, changing. You cannot find the infinite in the finite, right? The finite is that which ends. So that which begins also has an end. The human life, the longevity of the body, right? It has a beginning, it has an end, it's finite. You cannot find the eternal in what is finite, that is of time. You cannot find the timeless in that which is of time. So all of these clues, these great big shining clues, give us the information to recognize that what is longed for cannot be found in the external, in the play of the world. To long for this freedom, this truth, this divine fulfillment is not wrong, but to seek it in the world is not ever, ever going to be fruitful. Can only eat the fruit of realization when there is a turning inwards in order to recognize the eternal nature of being is not of the world, it's not of the mind, it's not of the body. It is that which is here when all of those things are not being focused upon and given a priority. So the mind on a certain level wants that, thinks it wants that is more accurate. It thinks that it wants that. But what the mind really wants is a pleasant experience of awakening, right? That's the closest that the mind can get to what this is truly all about. The mind wants to be an awakened me so that it can continue its life as an awakened person, as a suffering-free awakened person. That's what the mind really wants. So that is why we have to get underneath the mind and all of the ways that it fools itself about sincerity and commitment. The mind can say, I want nothing more than this. And in the next breath, it is looking for happiness in the fridge, right? Nothing more, nothing more. I want nothing else. I'm done with the world. I'm done with the world. And in the next breath, perusing the internet for the next adventure, the next experience that's going to bring happiness in the external, in an adventure, in new things. So, what kind of honesty does it take to see this pattern, to really see it? Because the seeing has to be a landing where the seeing is from a clear perspective. The clear perspective is seeing as awareness that is not judging the mind, is not judging the me. Awareness is completely neutral. It's not thinking about it. It's not making a plan to be better. It's not making a plan to do it differently, to be more spiritual, to be more committed, to stop looking for happiness in the fridge, right? Could make a fridge magnet out of that. It would be very popular. Happiness is not in the fridge. So, where is happiness? How can we be honest enough to surrender through the habit to seek happiness in things? It is to see as the eye of awareness, to see as the true being, to come to this moment and be aware. Just as these words are coming, it is to be the awareness that is aware of the habits and how instinctual and easy it is just to move in the old groove that keeps playing the same tune. Happiness in things, in relationships, in objects, in experiences. When the deep longing is the longing for the self, longing for freedom, longing for what is eternally true. The glimpses that we get in the play of the world, in happiness, in things, are just giving us an opportunity to recognize the juicy aliveness of that, so that we inquire deeply enough to find out what is the source of that, and how can I surrender into the eternal nature where this felt sense of openness, happiness, contentment, love, aliveness, where this is ever, ever present. So it is to surrender the habit to look for happiness in things and recognize that happiness is the true nature, contentment is the true nature. And this essentially is peace. It's the bliss, the ananda, right? It's the simple bliss, the peace, the simplicity of just being. And it's right here in this moment. So to feel yourself here now in this moment, just simply being here so fully, feeling the felt sense of simple being that is the stillness, the silence that just is, and to directly taste the happiness, the unburdened, simple joy of just being here. And that it is causeless. There is nothing that is creating this. It is just to be here and feel the direct experience that is confirmable. It's never changing. It's always here, underneath the play of the world and the constant seeking in the world. Happiness is just here as a vast open field of contented being. And this is the true nature of all beings. So it is to contact the longing that is deeper than the wanting, deeper than the story that the mind tells itself. To contact the longing that is unfathomable and does not really know what it is longing for. Because to contact the longing, it's to hear the silent whisper, the innermost whisper that is calling you to this quest. Sometimes it cannot be identified exactly as a longing, but it is the recognition that there is something deep inside that is calling you into yourself, something that is whispering, wanting to invite you deeper than the life that plays out on the surface. And so to contact this, what is calling you? What is drawing you in? It is underneath the play of the seeker, underneath the felt sense of seeking for something. There's an energy, there's an aliveness. This is the longing. It's to come into contact with this, because this is pure. And this felt sense brings you to this moment. It brings you to the not knowing. It brings you to the unfathomable pull of the heart into yourself, where you start to feel that what feels like your longing, what feels like something in you that needs to know this, that is so pulled, as you come to the felt sense of the longing itself reveals itself to be that which is longing for you. It reveals itself to be more neutral than my longing. It's a felt sense of a draw, a pull, a felt sense of a trajectory that's pulling you inwards, pulling you towards yourself. It is the divine magnetizing itself. It never has been your longing. You are just picking up on the big, crazy, alive draw of the magnet that is the divine, that is the self, that is so bright and brilliant and so true and pure that its brilliance is pulling you to know this truth. And whether you call this truth God or love or freedom or awakening or mother, it matters not. Or the self, it does not matter what the word is, what the emblem is that resonates. It is all a resonance of the very same source, the deepest, most profound, simple source that is just pure light, shining so brightly. And that the brightness of that light, it has a resonance. It has a resonance. The resonance is happiness. The resonance is aliveness, that is blissful happiness. And it's that is pulling all parts of itself into the remembering of no parts, of wholeness. So if you feel to be a part that is longing, you are longing to remember your true belonging. All desire, all wanting is only rooted in the self, and it takes a simple exploration of your own experience to find out that these words that are being spoken are simple truth. They are not someone's truth. They are the simple truth that is the truth of all. And to follow your longing, to follow what is truly longed for, you find out whatever word you come to, love, freedom, happiness, God, whatever word you come to, the felt sense of that longing is the divine longing for you. It's the pure radiance that is magnetically calling all of itself to turn inwards, to turn towards itself and know. Be still and know. Turn towards yourself and know. Know this truth. Know this truth as who you are. Feel your own presence and be so present to this truth as presence itself, as truth itself. The only reason that these words are recognizable and land with a resonance is because they are your own words. They are the words of your heart. They are the words of your own self, speaking what you want, what you long to hear. In order to unravel the habit to look externally, to unravel the habit to look for happiness in things, and to stay convinced on some level that perhaps this time there will be a happy ending. But you want to come to an eternal truth where there is not even a happy ending, right? The happy ending is a longing to live in the eternal, unchanging. It's not to live a happy story, because there is no such thing as an eternally happy story. A happy story is always going to have cycles of disappointment. It is to come to this moment so deeply, to feel the timeless nature, to feel the timeless nature of just simply being, and confirm in your direct experience that this moment, here, now, happiness is here. It's not a fix. It's not a high that has an opposite of a low. It's a contentment that is equanimity. It's a harmony, a balance, a neutral sense of being whole, wanting nothing, needing nothing. So true happiness is different to what the mind imagines happiness is. The mind knows happiness as a mood. It knows it as a heightened mood. But this moment is full of a rich contentment. It is silence. It is not a high or a low. It's the neutral, silent, simple nature, equanimity. And as you come deeper to this neutral, simple silence that is still and unmoving, this simplicity, it's alive within itself, and the aliveness within itself can express in more alive ways. But it is not about the measure of how much aliveness, how much happiness. It's immeasurable. It's completely immeasurable. And yet the deeper you come to this truth, the more alive the true nature starts to shine. True knowing, the only knowing, is not knowing anything and knowing yourself. It's the only knowing that is of any value. It's to know yourself as this timeless being here now, just simply being. And being here now, you can confirm the sense of presence. Yes, the mind will try to come in very quickly, but it is to keep turning to yourself, to keep turning to yourself and saying yes, yes, in confirmation of the simplicity, the happiness, the openness, the neutral, whole, pure nature of this moment, just as it is. The knowing itself is the aliveness of the resonance of the self recognizing itself, alive with this knowing. And this knowing is so precious because it is pure. It is not dependent upon anything. The only presence in knowing is presence itself, is silent presence. And so all these words that come of love is really just this unconditioned presence where there is no separation and no conditions. Love is the openness when there are no conditions or restrictions or boundaries put in place to protect. And then there is love, pure love. We have learned not to be open this much, not to be this open and unguarded. We have learned about having boundaries, learned to protect, learned to defend, learned to be the best, learned to find out ways to be more special, to be the best one of whatever we excel in, to be excellent, to be genius, to be brilliant, to compare and judge. But all of these are just ways that protection comes in. When there is no protection, there is no comparison, there is no judgment, there is the recognition that love does not belong to you or me, that relationships, even, love does not belong to one or the other. You cannot own love. You cannot own a person. Where there is love in this way, there is protection playing, and there is duality. Love is openness. Love is the openness where there are no conditions, where there's no one that can win or lose the game of love. To know yourself is to know that you are love. You are the love that is longed for, the love that never leaves. And just like we are speaking of happiness, love is a quality of true nature. Well, it's the fragrance of true nature. It's the truth of true nature. It's love, where there's no division, where there's no fragments. And so true love is the meeting in that which is true. Even what the mind calls soul love is a flavor, a worldly flavor. It's still got an idea that we as two souls have a bigger and better love than your soul would have with any other soul, right? It's nonsense. There's only one. There's only one. And it's to see all of the ways that we create boundaries, we create ideas and stories to make specialness. Specialness is one of the most secret forms of protection. Specially awakened being, right? No, it's not special to be awakened. It's natural. It's natural. It's the most natural, ordinary way to be, where there's no specialness, there's no exaltation, there's no need to divide yourself and put yourself in a bubble as being higher or better. It's to roll around like little innocent puppies in the oneness, where you're not going to catch bad things from beings that are not as awakened as you, right? Awakeness is the true nature. Divinity is the true nature. And that's why we speak of what God is. When God is recognized beyond all concept, it's beyond all ideas that even religion has, that religion is held so highly. But the majority of religion is interpretation, right? That interprets and creates division. So it's tricky. It's very tricky, because it's just to see. It's not to evaluate or to put any judgment on anything, but it's to be the aware being that is watching and is noticing. If there is separation here, if there is a sense of me and other, then what is that barrier? What is that boundary made of? What is creating that? It's a thought, and it's to weed out the garden of these thoughts. Pull up all of these weeds, because to pull up these weeds is to root out where the ego is holding its protective stance. It's to find joy in knowing nothing. This is why sometimes we speak of the fool. The fool isn't even what the mind interprets as a fool, right? Images of the fool, but the fool is the being. It's the zero, right? The fool is zero. The fool is that which doesn't know anything, but it knows itself. So that's why it's jumping around and laughing, because it's happy. It's a happy fool, and it's jumping around because it knows the secret. It knows the secret of being zero, of knowing nothing. It knows that there's no value in knowledge that is not pure. The fool is the simple being that knows only itself. Because when There is no false knowledge and no specialness. When the only knowing is the knowing of the self, the incredible profundity is that has that little fool jumping around and dancing around in the forest like a happy little pixie is because all wisdom, all intelligence is available when the only knowing is yourself. That you do not need to hang on to anything. You do not need bookish knowledge. You do not need teachings. You need to know only yourself and come to this knowing deeply enough that the surrender into yourself is so rich and full that the recognition is, yes, yes, you're doing the little happy dance. You're doing the happy dance because you know nothing and you want nothing, that nothing makes you happy. Nothing, truly nothing, makes you happier than happy could ever imagine to be. This is the happiness of this eternal moment. Exhale. Exhale so deeply that you can feel a divine smile brewing in the heart that recognizes happiness is here now. This eternal moment, just as it is, that nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. So the happy dance is the happiness of the self knowing itself. It's dancing the ecstatic dance of Shanti, of peace, of Ananda, right? It's this happiness, recognizing, there's nothing here. I'm no one. Nothing matters. And everything that was longed for is here. Not even by the bucket load. It's not even here by the truckload. It's immeasurable how much is here. Happiness is here. Peace is here. Love is here. Joy is here. Freedom is here. Because it's what is. It's not even who I am. It's what is. Because who the I am really is the isness itself, the isness of being, the isness of being. We could say the amness or the isness that is really the true I, what the I truly is, when we really follow everything back to the source. So as the aware being, we can see, not for the mind to create judgment, but awareness can shine the light so insight can flood in. Oh, those are the ways that I create specialness. Those are the ways that I think I'm superior, right? Because ego can be superior and inferior, right? Ego has these different ways of playing itself through. So it's just to see, as the aware being, how is ego protection playing? Not for judgment to come, not for a to-do plan, but for the light of awareness, for love itself to shine upon the habits and the tendencies that are your unique ways of protecting, in order to shine and shine the light so that they just fall away. You see that they're not necessary. These are the ways. I see the habits. Seeing the habits is shining the light of awareness upon the habits. And as awareness shines upon the habits, it's that light, that warmth, that openness, that unconditional nature of love that brings the courage for the habits to defend and protect, to surrender and fall into what they are truly longing for. What they are truly longing for is the most profound inquiry. Find out, what do all of these pieces that play as protection, what do they really want? When you really inquire about every single piece, what does it want? What does it really, really want? It wants to know itself. It wants to know, who am I? Who am I really? It wants to know love. It wants to know wholeness, connection, presence. And so when you are shining as the light of awareness, you are offering the safe haven of truth, the embrace of love that the me thought was missing, that it needed to create this persona in order to be someone and feel special, to feel successful. All of the ways as we shine the light upon, we discover what any part, any thread, what it truly longs for. What does it truly want? Underneath the play of the world, follow it back and you'll find the felt sense that is pure, raw longing. You'll hear the whisper that really brings you to the essence of what this is really all about. That all desire, all want, all need is really just wanting God, wanting wholeness, wanting the self. It's the only thing that is happening anywhere. When you come to a place in the life where the veils are thin enough that you are invited into inquiry and not just living in the spin of ignorance, then this is profundity itself. This is the blessing itself. That this life, this human life, is bringing you so close that you can smell this truth, you can taste this truth, you can feel it. And this closeness, this intimacy, is the start of intimacy with your true nature. It's so close by now that really what we are speaking of these habits are wearing thin. They are wearing thin in all beings that are pulled to satsang, because you would not be pulled to satsang if they were not wearing thin enough, that this possibility to know yourself was not real and already alive here. But you are not becoming something that you have not always been. You are coming to the deep remembering. The clouds have parted, the veils are lifting, the habits are being eliminated. And here now, the realization that you are being invited into is to realize who you have always been. It's a remembering of who you are underneath everything that plays to distract and protect and create a false sense of who you are. The longing for God is here by the virtue of God bringing that longing in, right? Our longing to know this truth is only here by virtue of the part of us that already knows. So it is to stay close to the longing, to the felt sense of being here now. Stay close and keep saying yes to who you are already. And as you say yes to who you are, and this turning inward comes, and you're saying yes and yes and yes, you're not choosing to turn away, but by the very simple saying yes to yourself, you are saying no to living in the habits and the conditioning, in the illusion of separation, in the illusion of individuality. You are surrendering all of that that the me thinks that it knows and holds as valuable, into this moment, into being the zero, the full, that is dancing the happy dance, ever in the eternal wilderness of golden naturalness, the golden naturalness of the Sat, the Sat Chit Anand, the golden naturalness is the reflection that we see in nature, right? True nature reflected in the magnificence, let's say beauty of nature, the beauty, the awe, the wonder, the magical, the geometry, right? All of this is mantra, right? It's all the essence of the true nature reflected in its purity. So where we see beauty, we have no defense against beauty. No. Don't be that beautiful, right? It doesn't come as defense. It comes as jaw-dropping awe, right? It's different. It's really different. When we are presented with beauty, with magnificence, a reflection of our true nature, we recognize it. There's no defense. There's awe. There's wonder, right? Recognize this quality where you're stopped in your tracks, where you feel silence, you feel stillness, you feel the deliciousness. It's the naturalness of true nature, of the Sat Chit Anand. It's the naturalness of being nothing, and all of your defenses drop in the presence of your naturalness. There's so many ways that presents, but that's where the simplicity of beauty, and yet when you really stare into a flower, the simple beauty has this incredible song that is a geometry that's beyond understanding. To stare into that, to feel the unfathomable possibility of how does that know how to be that? Right? This is true knowing. True knowing. How do you know how to be your magnificent, beautiful, pure self? You cannot know it with the mind. You can only be it. So when you stare in awe, in wonder at beauty, undefended, unprotected, you're staring into the face of, you're staring into the Om, right? You're staring into the purity of a Bij mantra. Okay, yoga language is coming. Apologies for the ones that think, what is she talking about? But you're staring into Om, you're staring into Hrim, right? You're staring into something so profound and unfathomable. You don't need to know any of the language of what's being spoken. It's to feel the quality of the awe that stops you. When you don't take that into the mind and want to own it, and you just feel it, it's reflecting your true nature. It's happiness, okay? It's happiness that seems to be in a thing. But if you don't pick it up and say, this is making me happy, you just feel what it's pointing you to. Whether it's staring into a flower, whether it's staring at an incredible vista, whether it's sitting at the foot of an ancient old growth tree and feeling the resonance. It doesn't matter what it is. It brings you to this stop that is pure awareness. It's that simple. It's the Om. It's the pure awareness. It's a reflection of yourself, the naturalness, the naturalness of being yourself, where specialness and comparison falls away, and the essence quality is what is being recognized. Essence quality. Your true essence, here now. The beauty here now. The naturalness, the wonder, the awe of who you are, knowing yourself through being yourself. The richness of utter fulfillment, this moment that needs nothing, this moment, this moment. Like the warmth of the sun, like the brilliance of sun. The brilliance of the heart is shining, ever shining, pulling all of the threads of itself. We could say the rays, to be connected, be fully connected to the source, to recognize what is the source, the essence. Be in connection. Feel yourself as absolutely one, as the brilliance that is inseparable from that which is brilliant, right? As brilliance is inseparable from a shining, shining diamond or a shining, shining sun. You cannot have one without the other. They're two sides, but there's utter, utter oneness. It's the union of all seeming duality in its source as the one. And you are that one, ever shining, ever pure, ever radiant. Pure awareness, in utter awe. And this utter awe is silence, silence. This moment rich, rich with happiness that is causeless, rich as the eternal now, the timeless being. Every glimpse that we are given is only ever inviting us to find out the source of happiness, the source of love, the source of peace, and not to settle for these qualities in experience, to know that experience comes and goes. It is temporary and transient. The ultimate experience is the knowing of yourself that never ever changes, and yet it is vibrantly alive with its own knowing, and this knowing flows within itself as the field of intelligence, wisdom, true wisdom. Following everything back to its source, to find the source of happiness, the source of love, the source of peace, is to find the truth of who you are as peace itself, as happiness itself, as love, just being itself. When you are resting in the knowing, there is nothing else to know but this moment just as it is. And then the humility to just be here, to be without story, to be who you are in truth. You are not someone dancing the happy dance. You are the alive flow that is dancing, dancing as happiness itself, as no one, as nothing, just simply being. And to know this is to know God, without concepts, without stories. It's to know wholeness, the wholeness that is the true nature of all beings. It is divinity, love, wholeness, bliss. Can use many different words, but it is to come to the knowing and let the wisdom itself speak. No longer fooled by happiness in things, no longer fooled by happiness in experience. To come to zero, come to this eternal moment and know true happiness is this neutral, natural equanimity that is content and simple and free.